The fate of the 2022 Formula 1 Championships is completely decided at this point. Red Bull would have to oversee the biggest throw in sporting history to not win from their current position. But that isn't good enough for Christian Horner and co. No, they want to rub salt in Ferrari and Mercedes' wounds. Red Bull apparently have a game-changing upgrade ready that will allow Max Verstappen to dominate the rest of the season. But is it even legal? Let's find out. At the Belgian Grand Prix, Max Verstappen was quite frankly in another league. He qualified a solid 0.8 of a second ahead of second place Carlos Sainz, and even with a grid penalty that knocked him down to 15th on Sunday, he still managed to win the race with 17.8 seconds to spare. In Zandvoort, he didn't quite show the same level of dominance, but the track at the Dutch GP is probably as badly suited for the car as any will be. Despite this though, Red Bull still have a glaring issue with their car. That might sound impossible. How can a car as good as the RB18 have any problems? Well, trust us, it does. Since the beginning of the year, the RB18 has been suffering from being overweight, with an estimated initial value of almost 18 kilograms over the minimum weight allowed for a car empty of liquids of 798 kilograms. The team have been constantly trying to trim weight from the car, which at its most extreme led to Max Verstappen's DRS breaking in one race. Weight is obviously incredibly important to an F1 car. The heavier something is, the harder it is to move. That is the most basic of basic physics, but it applies to an F1 car as well. The more weight Red Bull can take off their car, the easier it is for the engine to move it, so the faster the car will go. Well, rumours have been flying about a potential new chassis that could remove 4 to 5 kilograms of weight from the RB18. Unlike in most traditional cars, an F1 car has a monocoque, meaning the chassis is integral with the body. So when we say they're going to lighten the chassis, what that actually means is that they're rebuilding the entire bodywork of the car to save some weight, which is obviously incredibly expensive. We'll come back to that, but remember that the price is important for later. The new chassis brings Verstappen's RB18 close to its minimum weight of 798 kilograms, with a theoretical performance advantage of just under 0.2 per lap over the previous chassis. The result was achieved by applying a different construction to the chassis, not in terms of design, which had remained the same, but by carefully studying the cross-ply of the different layers of carbon fiber. By placing the fibers in a different orientation, the same stiffness and strength values as the previous version could be obtained, but with a reduced thickness in many parts of the chassis. As a result, the new chassis is significantly lighter. At its core is a thorough and extensive analysis through the use of finite elements tools, with software that virtually evaluates the stresses by dividing the body into several sections. This makes it possible to simulate the resistance of the structure and its stiffness as the structure varies. The focus here is on the orientation of the fibers of the different carbon layers. The chassis has undergone the homologation test for the 2022 technical regulations, meaning it is legal for this year. There were rumors that it was being homologated for next year, but that process is yet to begin, so it must be ready for this year. By laying their carbon fibers in a different orientation, so less are required for the same strength and rigidity, Red Bull have managed to save a huge chunk of weight. It is clear that this involves a major financial investment, both in the design phase and in the physical production of the new chassis. According to the team, the resources used by Red Bull are part of the extra budget of €4 million allocated to the teams by the FIA due to inflation. Sources reported that around half of this bonus was used for the development and manufacture of the new chassis. Some team bosses have been furious at the fact that Red Bull may have produced this new chassis as they don't think it should be possible under the budget cap. We'll bring you reaction from Mattia Binotto and Toto Wolff later in the video, but first let's look at how they might have got this in despite the budget cap. Red Bull have been using different specification cars in recent races. Sergio Perez confirmed before the Dutch Grand Prix that Red Bull will continue to use different floor specifications on their drivers' cars. While Max Verstappen continues to use the team's current floor design, Red Bull reverted to an older specification floor on Perez's car. "We just have different floors now," said Perez. "It's going to be, we're going to have this floor for the next few events, and we'll try to get a better read." The floor on Perez's car has a cut in the section in front of the rear wheels. The design hasn't been seen since the British Grand Prix in July. They did this at the Belgian Grand Prix and Max was able to beat Perez by 17 seconds, despite the Mexican starting 12 places ahead of him on the grid. Red Bull team boss Christian Horner has revealed that the floor decision has been forced on financial grounds, with the squad most likely unwilling to build another new spec floor at this stage of the season amid the restrictions of the cost cap. Horner has been quick to deny that the new chassis even exists, but we note that it 100% does. If Red Bull are saving money by not producing and fitting a new floor to Perez's car, maybe they're saving money by only producing one new chassis for Max's car as well. There is some logic behind this. Red Bull are currently in the running to win both championships. In the Constructors, they lead Ferrari by 135 points. In the Drivers' Championship, Max leads Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez by 109 points. It seems incredibly unlikely that Ferrari would get themselves into a position to contest in either of these. Even before the summer break, we were discussing when Max mathematically won the championship. But if Ferrari did somehow find half a second of lap time over the summer break, then by upgrading Max Verstappen's car, they would give themselves the best chance of holding on to both championships. Max is far more likely to win a race than Sergio when they're in the same machinery. Max can also defend Red Bull's position in both championships, while Sergio can only defend their position in one championship. If budget caps are a concern, then just upgrading Max's car is actually the perfect move to ensure Red Bull still take 2 trophies at the end of the season, but don't have to suffer the repercussions of spending too much money. The talk of a new Red Bull chassis has got Mattia Binotto riled up though. Team principal Mattia said the cap was a very green regulation, adding the number of people in the FIA monitoring it is very little. He said it has to improve for the future, because it would be really bad if somehow a championship was dictated by a financial regulation and not technical or sporting. Clearly, Mattia is not happy about how much Red Bull have been spending, but when asked whether the team would stay within the budget cap this year, a spokesperson for Red Bull said, "Yes, we've had less upgrades than Ferrari and Mercedes." When asked about the possibility of Red Bull bringing a new chassis, Mattia said, "I cannot know what they're doing, if they have a lighter chassis or not, but the budget cap is always a concern. Ferrari would never be capable of introducing a lightweight chassis or a different chassis through a season simply because of the budget cap, and I would be very surprised if a team is capable of doing it. And if they are, it is back to the regulation itself. Is it fair enough? Is it equitable enough? Is the policing sufficient?" Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff echoed this by saying, "We wouldn't be able to introduce a chassis at this stage of the season. We are massively overweight, and we haven't been able to sort out because we're trying parts on the car in order to solve our various issues, so can't afford that full stop." Could they fit a new chassis to one car though? Red Bull may not have a backup, just an old spec chassis in case the very unlikely happens and Max has an accident that requires a new chassis to be fitted. It takes a huge accident to break an F1 chassis, and unless Lewis Hamilton decides to take another run at Max like he did at Silverstone in 2021, the Dutchman won't need a new one. Despite not being able to fit a new chassis to his car, Toto Wolff seems unfazed by the idea that Red Bull is able to. He thinks the FIA does have all the tools it needs at its disposal to make sure that all teams are respecting the cost cap. "I saw Mattia mentioning that," said Wolff. "I have no doubt in the FIA's new regime that they will not police robustly, and they will be policing to what the governance says, and the financial budget cap regulations is as important as sporting and technical. So let's see what the outcome is." Making the assumption that Red Bull won't go over the budget cap, then fitting the new chassis to one car may seem unfair on Perez, but it makes perfect sense in the new regulations. This is a way to make use of the budget cap more efficiently for top teams. It wouldn't surprise us if we saw a team in Red Bull's position in the future, where they're winning both championships, protect their lead by only upgrading one car. It might be tough for the second driver to take, but Formula 1 is a team sport as well as a solo sport, and sometimes you have to take one for the team. Want to know more about what's happening in F1? Then click the video on your screen and I'll see you there.